Hey guys, welcome to the shop. Now, I've got a different video today. Actually, it's the same, but it's going to be pretty neat. It's the moment of truth. You know, we're going to put an indicator on the little grinder and just see how wore it is. Now, I already know because I've already checked it, just a few minutes ago, well, earlier this morning. And I found some surprising things. Some things that not very good. And then some things that, were alright. So we've got some work to do. Let's just put it that way. I want to show you what I found, some of the neat design features of this thing, and some of the not so neat design features. So let's go check it out. Alright guys, now I feel like that I know this machine pretty well by now. I've had it completely apart from basically the ground up. The only thing I haven't had apart on this machine is the high-speed spindle, which I'm not taking apart, hopefully, and the motor. Yeah, because I have a feeling we're going to have to put bearings in it. But, and up to this point I've found very little wear in most anything that I've looked at. The table does have some wear in it. We've seen it on the bench in the last video. So we know that there is some wear, but how much wear? Well, we're going to check that. We're going to check the table full travel, right to left, and back to front. We're also going to look at the spindle on this thing. We're going to check the run out on this high-speed spindle on the female taper. We're going to put the arbor in it, check the male taper, and I'm also going to show you how to get one of these grinding wheel arbors off of one of these machines. Now, it wasn't obvious how this thing comes apart, and it's a high-speed precision spindle that you've got to be careful with. I did a quick YouTube search and couldn't find any information really that helped me. I don't have the book on this machine yet, so I'm just going to put that information out there for everybody just because. So come on in, let's check this table right to left, front to back, then we'll check the spindle, then I'll tear this thing down and fast forward, and I'll show you some of the neat design features and some of the not so neat design features. Alright, so we're going to check this table right to left. Now let me get you a little closer on this indicator. Now, this is a tenths indicator, so it's really, really touchy. Now, let's go all the way to the right. Okay, that's 7/10. We drop back down to 0. And, that's probably 7 or 8/10 right there. So not too bad, really. That's over the complete distance of this table, right to left. And I can live with that. That's just like changing the cutter height on a lathe. I think some of you guys with more experience than me, you could chime in if you know, but I think that's probably okay. I mean, we're talking the whole distance here. We're probably going to be working over, 6 inches. So we're going to have a little variation in height on this. But to be honest, that's not too bad. Now, let me show you where the real wear is at. Alright, so that is, like I said, what I would expect. Not too bad. This is a used machine, and it's within basically 1/1000th of an inch travel over the whole length of its travel. Within 1/1000th of an inch over its entire travel. Not too bad, really, and all that's going to affect is the height of the part, really. It'll change just like on a lathe where you're changing the cutter height, So I don't know, like I said, never ran a grinder really before, so I don't know how bad that'll be as far as affecting the accuracy of your work, but it is something that, a problem that this machine has. But that's not the main problem. It's really got some wear in the saddle. And I'm going to put out a guess as to why this machine does. Let me get you back and get you a better angle. Alright, so we talked about design features. Well, this is a budget grinder. It really is a cheap machine. This was, an entry-level grinder for cutters. A small version, probably, like I said, a budget model. And it does not oil itself on the carriage, the in and out of the table. There is nothing other than relying on the operator to oil this machine. Pretty much gravity holds it all together. It does have some clamps, some weight clamps on the bottom. Now I've already had this machine completely apart. I pulled it all down this morning, looked at it, cleaned it, checked all my measurements, and I want to show you some of the stuff that I found. And some of the things are really neat, and some of them are, not so neat. But it is what it is. So we're going to have to fix this machine. I'm going to try to come up with a plan as to how to do that. But first, let me show you the real wear in this machine, and that is in our front to back movement. Alright, so that was right to left. Now we're going to use this Brown & Sharp 6-inch parallel. Now I've verified the accuracy of this parallel on the surface plate, so it's good. I'm going to lay it across the table here. Because of the slots in this table, we need this parallel to span those. And we're going to bring it up here and bring it down and zero it. Then we're going to run this table in. And we're going to try to go over this 6 inches, but you'll see the wear that's in this. Now, I was really surprised at the amount of wear in this saddle, but I think I know why. And the reason why I think that there's so much wear in the saddle of this machine is because there is no provisions for oil in the saddle on this machine. It was strictly up to the operator to oil the saddle on this machine, and I think most of us know a lot of these old machines that were in shops owned by someone else other than the operator, they didn't care if it was oiled or not. So I'm going to show you the wear in this, and then I'm going to tear this thing down, like I said, fast forward. I'm going to show you some of the really cool design features that'll make this not so bad of a repair, and we'll also check the high-speed spindle. Okay, let me get you in a little tighter. Alright, so now I'm just going to move this table out, and I want you to watch this indicator. It's just a steady creep, and it's like that over the whole travel. It just continues and continues. And it's got about 6.5 to 7 thousandths of an inch over that 6 inches. Or at least six thousandths over that. It starts to get worse as we come out and the saddle starts hanging over. But as you can see, that's not very promising, and in fact it's a problem. How bad that would affect the work that this machine does, I'm not for sure, but we need to fix that. So let's check the spindle real quick and then we'll tear this thing down. Alright, now a little disclaimer, I'm not a grinder hand. I do not run a surface grinder and have not. But now this is a left-handed nut here. Now all this stuff is loose. I'm just going to show you the procedure that I went through to take this off, not knowing the proper way. And the first thing I did was notice that it was left-handed. So I wanted to take this wheel off, or the wheel that was on this arbor, because I didn't know if it was balanced or anything, and I'll be doing all of that, on my own. So I took the arbor off, the washer, and the wheel. And then I was left, let me get you in a little tighter. And I was left with this. Now it's not really self-evident, at least it wasn't to me, how this comes off here. First thing I did was make up just a little generic spanner wrench, and I took this nut off here. Now, that didn't get me anywhere. This was still stuck onto this arbor really well. So I noticed that this has two flats on it, so I loosened this. And it comes off to a certain point and then stops. And then if I go farther, it pops it, the male arbor out of the female spindle. Get you back just a little. Now, I was still stuck here. Now I noticed that there was threads in here, and then I did a little research and found that there's a puller that actually screws in here, and then you screw a nut in and it presses this off of this arbor. Now I'm left with this. So that wasn't that easy, especially when you don't know what you're doing, with a precision spindle. I had to take a piece of pipe in the press, set over top of this, pressing on this screw here, and press that off, just like that. Now, I'm going to have to get that puller, guys. I don't have it, or I'm going to have to make it. But that's the way these come off. You don't always have to pull this out. If you were just changing a grinding wheel, you would leave this attached. If you were going to put a new wheel on, you would just leave this arbor installed. You would leave this installed, you would come in with your puller and pop this off. But I've noticed that some of my grinding wheel arbors don't have threads inside. Let me get one of those. Alright, I've got 3 different arbors here. Here's one, and they're dirty and crusty. I haven't cleaned them up yet. There's no threads in it. I believe the tapers are the same. Here's another one. No threads in it. And one more. No threads in it. So, I don't know exactly, how would be the best method to get these off, other than every time having to, pull this out, put it in the press like I did before. But with a wheel on it, that wouldn't be as easy. So, I'm not for sure, the proper method to do that, especially when they don't have a screw inside them. Some of you guys can chime in and that are, well rehearsed in this, and let me know. Alright guys, now here's something that's fairly promising on this machine, along with several other things. It just kind of does suck when you find something that's not good, but it could be a lot worse. So here's the run out on this spindle. Almost nothing, 25 millionths. Check it up here. So that's on the male taper. Let's get you back a little. Check the female, which it should be good too. I've already checked it and it was good for me. I think it'd be easy to over tighten this bolt, because if you over tighten it, I don't know what is tight, on something like this. I know they don't have to be extremely tight because we're not dealing with a lot of force, but the more you tighten it, it will increase your run out. That's what I've seen anyway. But not by much, but still, you're putting a lot of strain on it by increasing the torque on that bolt. Let's get this in here and zero it. Put you in. And it's really, I'm moving it, I've got the whole thing loose, so just my hand on it makes it move. I'm getting a piece of dirt in there. But basically, it has almost no run out, which is a good thing. But I haven't run this spindle, and it probably hasn't been run in years, so we could run into some problems, but about the same, little, maybe a 3/4 of a tenth, half a tenth, nothing really. So that's pretty good. I'm happy about that. Now let's get this thing apart. And that's all there is to it. Other than the 8 bolts that clamp that saddle to the bottom, that's how you get it off. It's that easy. Let me bring you in here and show you how this casting is made and how these ways are made. Alright, now this is the nut, and it is adjustable. It's a split nut. So you can put a bar in here, tighten this up, it squeezes that nut together, takes all the backlash out of your screw in and out. That's a pretty neat little design feature. And this nut is on 2 little rounded tapers, so it's self-aligning, which is pretty neat. I already took all this apart and cleaned it out. I just gas or kerosene and a brush, and it turned out really nice, and it's in really good shape. But the problem with this machine is these ways. Now, these look to be just hardened pieces of steel that are bolted to the main casting of this machine. You can see this split right here. It's the same on this side. 2 Allen head screws, and these come right off. So we could take these up, put them on the plate, get them parallel, and the ways on this machine as far as for the casting would be done. That's pretty quick and pretty neat. No reason to put this whole big thing up on a surface plate or anything. As long as where they machined it originally is okay, we should be good with just surface grinding these, and that's what I think I'm going to do. I think I may, get with someone who has a surface grinder who doesn't mind me, taking up a little of their time and surface grinding these. I could probably do it on the shaper, but it's not. I don't think it'd be a good thing to do on a shaper. This is surface grinder stuff. So another neat design feature is, let's see if that's in frame. Yeah, it's there. Is these are rollers. They're spring loaded and they push out. They're on this other side too, same rollers, except for they're only spring loaded on this side, and they keep the saddle from shifting side to side. Just spring loaded rollers. But there's some wear on the saddle from these, and I'll show you that in just a second. There's no way wipers on this machine, which in my opinion sucks, especially on a grinder. You want good guarded, machine surfaces, because that stuff gets in the air, gets up under there, sticks to any oily surfaces, and then it becomes a lapping compound. And that's what's happened here. No provisions for way wipers, no way to actually oil it, or for it to oil itself. That's always the best way, is a machine to take care of its own lubrication and not rely on the operator. And, poor maintenance. So this is promising. It won't be too bad to get these 2 surfaces back parallel. I pulled this one off and put it on the plate, and we'll do that in a minute. And I'll show you how much wear's in it. Maybe we'll pull off this one too, I don't know. But I want to show you the bottom of the saddle and show you the wear that I can see in it. Before we go up there, let me show you how easy it is to take off the machine surfaces on this thing. Which this is promising and tells me that, really the only thing that I'm probably going to have to, get back in line is the lower part of the, the saddle. I think I may leave the table the way it is. Now, some of you guys can chime in that have more experience than me. Like I said, I'm no machine rebuilder. I've done very little of this stuff, and I don't have a background in it, and sometimes I get hung up on stuff that's, pretty straightforward. But I'm learning, and it's a big process. Two screws, and there we go. We got a machine surface. And of course, like you would expect, the bottom is in new condition. it just sets on two little pads. Because this machine doesn't have any major cutting forces, it doesn't take anything to keep everything in line. That's my assumption. Plus, this is a budget machine. So there's our machine surface. Let's take this and the saddle up on the plate, or up on the table, and look at it. Alright, now here's the bottom of the casting, or the bottom of the carriage. That's what I'm going to call the carriage, or the knee, I don't know what you'd call it. Saddle, that's what it looks like, so that's what I'm going to call it. The bottom of the saddle. And I've cleaned it up a little bit, got all the grease off of it. I hate touching stuff that's greasy all the time. So if you clean it up once and keep it clean, you don't have to worry about all that. Plus, all that grease just attracts grinding dust, and that's been some of the, probably the issue with this machine also. You can see this is one of the ways off of the casting, and it's got some hardened rollers in it. And this side is not spring-loaded, but the other side is, and it's still attached to the machine. But it goes just like this. Yeah. Just like that, and slides up and down. Those little rollers roll, and that's it. So we'll put this on the surface plate and check it, see how out of parallel it is, because it does have some wear, and most of the wear's out here. I already checked this one, but I want to show you. So I think we can put these on the surface grinder and get them, you know, back flat. Then we can put this saddle on and print it and work it back and forth, and hopefully you know, get a good job that way. I'm not for sure exactly the method I'm going to use to get this saddle back in true. Now, these surfaces over here that these rollers ride on, they're pretty bad. I mean, this side is pretty bad back here, and this side is pretty bad back here also. I mean, I can feel it all the way down the little ridge where these rollers have probably pressed, you know, grinding goo over the years, just driving it into these sides. But where this is spring-loaded, if I don't take off much, I think I can get away with just, you know, maybe doing these sides on the shaper. But I'm not for sure I'm going to do that or not. But these, you know, if I had somebody that had a grinder that was big enough to do it, it'd be nice to do it on a grinder. But, you know, I may just have to end up, you know, scraping it in. Maybe shaper, I don't know. That old shaper is pretty accurate, but this is going to be touchy, and I really need to watch what I do on this. I could cause myself a lot of problems, and there's not a whole lot of material here to play with, so I need to be really careful in my decision and what I do, because we don't want to cause ourselves more work. But that's a pretty good look at it, you know, and there's really not a lot to it. Let's look at this on the plate. Okay, you can see we got, let's zero back on this most wore portion. This is the front of the machine up here. Bring it down, zero it. You can see we're dropping, there's 1,000th, there's 2,000ths, and about 2 6/10, 2 7/10, and they're parallel, or at least this way is parallel, so that wear is fairly even across the entire surface. It's just wore into a wedge. Not a real big wedge, but this is what I believe is hardened steel, so I won't probably be scraping that. So this is grinder stuff anyway, so there we go. A little look at the weigh. But man, you don't get much easier of a part to work on than one that you can hold in your hand, so I'm happy about that. Well, I would bet that you know those little grinders probably better than most people who own them themselves. So we still got a lot to go, guys. There's a lot to do. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those little, the bottom, the ways on the casting of that machine. I may try to do it on the shaper. I just don't know. I trust this machine pretty well, and I enjoy running it. And I think I can get them real close on this machine, and then take them on the plate and probably scrape them in. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. If I had a good surface grinder, I would surface grind them, but I don't. So, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. If you haven't, make sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking on my little guy up here and hit the bell for notifications. And as always, I'll see you next time.